you see that commercial. You're like, man, I'm gonna go become a SEAL. So you said the next day or the next week you're in the recruiter's office?
Next week.
Okay. So you're in the next week you're in the recruiter's office and you walk in and what's the story?
So I said, I want to be a SEAL. And he just kind of looked at me. He goes, okay. I dropped out of high school, so I had to take the entry test and show my ASVAB scores and all that nonsense that I passed. And then he gives me this security test. He's like, I want you to be honest on all of these questions. I said, cool, I can do that. And I got to the drug part. And he's like, have you ever smoked marijuana? I'm like, yep. He goes, how often? Once a week, twice a week, 3 times a day. And I did the most. And then he got it and he's like, gosh, dog, what did you do that for? Now I got to go get you a waiver. So then he had to go ask somebody to get me a waiver and we refilled it out. And I was like, dude, you told me to be honest with you. He goes, let me walk you through this.
Look out.
And real nice guy, but he's a car salesman. Recruiters are. And like I said, showed up 9 months, worked my butt off, and we were talking about strategy. I knew that I wanted this so bad that I had to create a strategy that wasn't going to fail, and that was train. So I went home. He didn't give me any guidance. All he told me is like, yeah, if you get on the ship, you're going to go into these ports, and there's going to be all these women. And I was like, dude, I don't want to hear about this. It's like, teach me how to train. So I bought a book about 3/4 inch thick, nothing but pictures, obviously, of how to be a Navy SEAL or Navy SEAL training, black and white. And I just started incorporating that on a daily basis. And, I basically quit working for the most part full time, and I worked minimal, just to pay bills and food and stuff, gas. And I did nothing but train. That's all I wanted. It's all I could think, I think it's one of those things when you want something bad enough, you'll know, because your whole life changes.
So what was that training like? I mean, like walk us through how you prepped.
So I got up about 5 o'clock in the morning. I went and ran 6 miles. I try to get down to an 8-minute pace. That's what they recommend, 8:30, being able to maintain that. And then I went to the gym after that. I did 400 push-ups, 400 dips, 400 sit-ups, 400 pull-ups, and then ran 1.5 miles on the treadmill at a slower pace. And then I went to work some days or 3 times a week, and then I would go to the Olympic-sized pool, swim the breaststroke 1.5 miles, because they didn't have any information on the side stroke at the time.
Stroke, yeah.
Yeah, there was nothing out there. It's like, just do the breaststroke.
Yeah.
So I was a swimmer in high school.
Oh.
I was pretty dang good at it. So it was pretty easy for me. Then I would go home, rest, and eat. Then at about 5, 6 o'clock, I'd go back to the gym, and I'd do my weight routine, which is 8 to 12, sets, 6 to 8 reps of, upper body, lower body.
Yeah.
And I definitely overtrained. I was 163 pounds soaking wet when I went into SEAL training. I was little.
Look out.
Yeah. I was probably I wasn't the shortest, but I was probably one of the lightest guys in training. And what was interesting is my stepdad got up and he started running with me every day, and we had to start off real slow. But he was a big reason why I continued.
Oh yeah,
just the support.
Yeah. Okay, so you're getting trained, you're getting geared up. I mean, do you know how was it back then? Are you on a SEAL track? I mean, how you go in there? Do you just go to boot camp, and then how does that work?
Man, you just go to normal boot camp. Now they have it separated. Like if you're going to go to SEAL training, you go to your own division.
Yeah.
So in Chicago, I hit it when it was snowing. So I went to boot camp and I asked the RDCs, I said, do you mind if I have a SEAL challenge? Because I wasn't going to go without the stamp that says I'm guaranteed an opportunity to go to BUD/S if I maintain all the grades and stuff. And every morning I would get up, I would take a shower, I would walk about 1.5 miles to where the SEALs trained every morning. And I would walk 1.5 miles back, just frozen to death. We would literally get in the pool every day, and by the time I get back, I'm digging ice out of my hair. I would get back in time for everybody to wake up and hit chow. That stuff was a regular, Navy training is very comical, to say the least.
Yeah,
it's probably some of the worst training in the military. Hopefully, they've definitely increased it, but. Just carried on with the day. The very first day You know, my stomach was so irritated and nervous. We went to the chow hall, and I'm like, yo, I got to go to the bathroom bad. I mean, I was holding it. So they're like, yeah, I go down, you know, back here, da 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 da. And I come back, and all the trays are cleaned off the table, and my division was outside. I'm like, man, I'm a breakfast guy. I had to have breakfast, or I couldn't function.
Yeah, yeah.
And needless to say, that was the last time I took a potty break during breakfast or any type of meal. I was like, there is no way, man. I'm a fast eater, but they made these kids like shovel this down their throat. And it was a good learning lesson.
So, so what's the transition from boot camp to SEAL training?
So from there, I basically, we talk about strategy. You know, I knew there was a possibility that I would get hurt. I knew that I'd already made up my mind. Either I'm going to die or I'm going to make it or get hurt and get kicked out and have to return. So since I'd already been an electrician out of the military, or on my way to an electrician, an apprentice, I actually said, you know what, let me get into these A schools. So I applied for the A schools. You know, it was very easy for me. I was actually fortunate enough that the instructors saw my skill set at that, and they allowed me to help teach some of the classes during the practicals and stuff. So I did that for 9 months.
Okay.
I did that for 9 months in Illinois as well. And then I was still with my high school sweetheart. She packed up and, you know, went to San Diego with me, and we got an apartment, and the rest is history. You know, it was a good journey, but it was crazy.
Yeah. So let's, man, I'd love to dive into, you know, some of the, you know, some of the buds training, some of the actual training. Is Hell Week, you know, what, you know, is it the monster that people claim it is?
Yeah. You talk about resilience. That's all it is. You know, I think we started with 165 people. We ended with 35, something like that. Usually if you get to day 3, you know, you're going to make it because you're just zombied out. You know, you're just zoned out.
Yeah.
You know, you just don't care. I mean, you're talking holes in you, just from the salt water and the sand and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Your feet are so swollen. You can't you take your shoes off, you're screwed.
Yeah.
You take your boots off, you're done. You're most likely not going to get them back on after about 5 or 10 minutes. But it's brutal. We got to a point to where we understood that no matter what we do, how good we perform, we're going to get beat. Yeah. You're going to get beat. There is nothing going to be comfortable here. And once you realize that that's the outcome, you just stop worrying about stuff and you just go evolution by evolution. You know, if you think about tomorrow, you're not going to make it. What's next? Yeah. What's the next hour look like? One more hour. One more hour. One more hour. And what I found is the people who were very arrogant and prideful, tried to isolate themselves like they were better than everybody else. Those are the first ones to go. You know, that camaraderie. You know, where when you're wanting to quit, that person's next to you and he sees it and he's like, nope, come on. You know, I only wanted to quit one time. It split second. We were in the bay, you know, and the tides that came in and the slopes of the sand were pretty steep. And they were waiting for the water to come in. They're like, back, and you would go back and the water would come over you and it hit your nose and you're gagging. Look out, man. Probably about 45 minutes into it, this thought hit me. I'm like, you know what? I could quit. I could go to the fleet, I could train and come back in 2 years. And then this vision of me having to go, ego and pride, that's all it was at that time, was me having to go home and look people in the face and say I failed and I quit intentionally. And then it was just a split second. It gave me this jolt of energy, and that was the only time I wanted to quit. And it wasn't even the fact that the water was running up my nose because I was very comfortable in the water. It was just everything compiled together. It was miserable. Just looking back at it, it's hard to believe a human can go through that type of training.
How much do you guys get to sleep during that week?
If you want to call it sleep, you're lucky about 45 minutes, and it's only at one point. I think it's on, if I remember right, I think it's on Thursday. They basically have the tents up, and you go and lay in the cots, and you're watching everybody, and they're just your hip flexors.
There's no way to no way to actually sleep.
Yeah, you're not sleeping. You're just I don't know what you are, but then they come in there with the bullhorns and scream at you about 45 minutes later, and you hit the ocean again. So I remember a guy on one of the documentaries, he's like, is this, Hell Week? I think they just say that to scare you. And I just busted out laughing. I was like, man, you're not going to make it. But, in boot camp, I had a lot of friends who had the SEAL challenge. They had the stamp. And when they came to A school, I would go work out every day. I found one of my really good friends. He's still a good friend of mine today. And I would stop by the lounge and tell my friends, put that damn pizza down and come work out with us. And before we phased up, some of these guys showed up, and the instructors were like, you go get them dialed on the obstacle course. And these guys were so out of shape, they couldn't even get over like the first wall, and they didn't even get to phase up. So, man, I look them in the face. I told you, put that damn pizza down and come work out.
How many phases are there? 3 phases?
3 phases.
3 phases,
Technically
right?
4.
Okay.
And a pre-phase when you come in. They change it even when Hell Week is. When we got into 4th phase, before we actually phased up, Lieutenant Scop, they were in the pool doing the centipede. So basically you wrap your legs around the guy in front of you, and your arms are what keeps you afloat.
Look out.
I think he had pulmonary edema, fluid on the heart or something like that. They thought they had it under control, but his heart exploded and sank to the bottom. So Hell Week was actually the 3rd week instead of the 4th. Well, they changed it and bumped it up to the 4th. So it varies a little bit. Last I heard, they actually switched it to the 5th at some point. I could be wrong, but I don't keep up with any of that.
I mean, you hear about these deaths. I mean, people die in Hell Week sometimes. I mean, that's accurate.
Oh, 100%. Outside of Extortion 17, up to that point, there were more deaths in training than in combat for the SEAL community.
Wow.
Diving and stuff like that.
Yeah.
It's extremely dangerous.
Yeah.
It's fun, but I look back at it and think, man, we were stupid.
Yeah.
Young and dumb,
Yeah.
We really searched for that thrill, and we didn't really comprehend how dangerous the things that we were doing really were.
So what is it? So what's it like to be done and graduate? What does that look like to finish?
There was one of the instructors, he said, you may have a trident, but in our eyes, you're still not a SEAL. So they always did stuff like that. They would celebrate, and then they would bring us back down to reality.
Yeah,
and I understood it. And so our ego and pride couldn't get there. When we showed up, we were like, instructor so-and-so, and they're like, put that crap down. You're in the teams now. I'm not your instructor. I'm your teammate. So there was an acceptance there, but there was also an understanding of who we were and our position at the time, that we haven't even scratched the surface of proving that we deserve to be a SEAL.